So this movie just kind of happens. Doesn't really have a beginning, middle, and end. It just sort of plays out in front of you, and I gotta be honest, I really don't have a whole lot to say about this one.
You have a real gift. I want you to make this place proud. But gambling is forbidden on campus.
I owed 60 grand tuition due next week, and that's if I don't eat.
Change your tune, or you won't have a school to pay for.
Is your plan to gamble for your tuition money?
Must be really nice to have your education paid for. I've been 3-tabling. Statistically, it's the right play. This is the one you wait for.
Maybe he was waiting for you.
Look how far outside the normal win rates the guys who beat you are.
Believing that he has been swindled, Princeton grad student Richie goes to Costa Rica to confront online gambling tycoon Ivan Block. Block's promises of immense wealth and power have a seductive effect on Richie, until he learns the shocking truth of his new mentor. When Richie is coerced by the FBI to help bring Block to justice, he faces the biggest gamble of his life, outmaneuvering the two forces closing in on him. In a lot of ways, this is going to be very similar to my video on Getaway, in that I'm just going to give you a quick plot synopsis, and then I'm just going to talk about sort of the key things that made this movie not very good. Because honestly, I don't know if this movie was edited to hell and back, because it feels like there's a bunch of parts of the movie that just feel like they were ripped out. So this is one of those movies that I remember hearing about in the year it came out, never saw it, and then jump forward all these years later, and I'm finally getting around to watching it. And I feel like even if I saw this back in 2013, I feel like I still wouldn't have had much of a reaction, because this movie doesn't really elicit any kind of reaction from me. Is it bad? I mean, yeah, I'm closer to leaning on the negative side of things, but I've seen worse. I mean, you've seen the movies that I've talked about for Blockbusters. There are plenty worse movies out there. I mean, shit, Getaway I would say is a way worse movie than this, but at the same time, I didn't really feel anything for the characters. The plot just kind of moves in a straight line. There's no real friction or any kind of interesting point where it's like, oh shit, things are getting tense, or oh man, we're building to a hell of a climax here. Nothing. This movie, for being a crime thriller, it's not that engaging of a movie. So to reiterate what happens in this thing, you have a Princeton college kid, played by Justin Timberlake, who was like, I don't know, mid to late 20s at this point, maybe older, probably early 30s. But I guess by Hollywood standards, he had a baby face at the time, so he could still play college student. He's going to Princeton, but he's also involved with this online gambling website, and eventually the dean finds out about this and tells him that he better cut that shit out, or else he's just being barred from Princeton.
We'll close up shop, effective immediately, or you won't have a school to pay for.
To add to that, he's also in a pinch when it comes to money. He doesn't want to get a real job or anything. He doesn't want to go to Wall Street, even though his dean tells him that he could probably get a decent job there. And his dad is also a bit of a gambling addict. The first time we see him, he's playing poker, and it's heavily implied that he's obviously gambling the money away, just like his son is. And later on in the movie, there's a line of dialogue where he says something about how gambling, I guess, ran in the family.
Got any connections in Costa Rica?
Down in Costa Rica, you're gonna gamble? You chip off the old block now?
Honestly, the only interesting thing about the dad character was that he was played by the late John Hurd, the same guy from Home Alone 1 and 2.
It reminds me of that suite we were comped in Atlantic City once when you were a kid.
And about the time you left me all alone in the hotel room while you were at the casino.
But like a complete dumb shit, Justin Timberlake bets all of his money, like everything that's in his account, which is like $17,000+. He bets it all in online poker, loses it, and so he decides that he wants to get his money back. So he goes to Costa Rica to meet with the guy who's in charge of the website, Ivan Block, played by Ben Affleck. And right away, this is when the movie just kind of skips over any kind of interesting factor here. I mean, him getting to Costa Rica probably would have been a more interesting movie. This guy that doesn't have any money to his name, he has to go to his dad for money, so the dad hooks him up with some cash so that he can fly to Costa Rica. Honestly, just this guy getting to Costa Rica, getting on the plane, ending up in some kind of foreign country that's not familiar to him, that could have been a movie in and of itself, but no, it's all done through the power of montage. And that's kind of how a lot of things play out in this movie. Any point in the movie where it's like, okay, shit, I'm curious where this could be going, it doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of moves on to the next thing. So he lands in Costa Rica, gets a pretty decent looking hotel, and at first I thought he was supposed to be forging documents or something, because he takes these pieces of paper and puts them into some kind of formula, and it's like, okay, so what's that going to be used for? And then later, when he gets into this big elite party where it's obviously being held by the guy that runs the gambling site, it looks like fucking Mardi Gras is going on. There's like a DJ, and there's a bunch of people just dancing around, people doing like wild coke parties and shit, getting plastered. There's like fan dancers, and there's like a Ferris wheel and stuff. It looks like a complete out-of-body experience. Although saying that makes it sound a lot more interesting than it actually is. The point is, he gets into this party, and I guess he was dipping the papers into the formula so he can write some kind of blacklight message, because he has to hold up a little flashlight to illuminate the message, and he points it at some kind of security camera. Hey, you! And then security come and take him away, or specifically they take him over to Ben Affleck, who's like 10 feet away from the security cameras. He probably could have passed him, but for some reason he had to do this whole elaborate, I'm holding up the message to the security cam shtick. Ben Affleck blows him off, and then I assume it's supposed to be the next day, or maybe it's a couple days later. The movie's sense of time really isn't that coherent. But he's about ready to just fuck off back to America, but Ben Affleck calls him over to his houseboat, which he calls the house, and I know shit all about poker and gambling and all that, and yet even I knew what it was supposed to be like in reference to. And then Justin Timberlake, this guy who helps with this website, goes, gee, why is it called the house? It's a boat.
This is the house.
Why the house?
Because the house always wins.
Ben Affleck as this Ivan Block guy, he likes the cut of JT's jib. So he not only gives him his money back, but he also basically hooks him up with a job. And the two of them become instant best friends. And from there, it becomes the tale of Justin Timberlake slowly realizing that this whole underbelly of online gambling and wealth and greed and corruption isn't really all it's cracked up to be. He ends up seeing the dark side of things. And to add to that, he's also pursued by an FBI agent played by Anthony Mackie. And the FBI agent says, hey, we're trying to pinch this Ivan Block guy, all right? We need you to get super close to him, bring us any kind of dirt or any kind of information you have on the guy, and you know what? We'll let you go back to America, but if you fail to do this in a specific amount of time, then guess what? You're not going back to the United States. You're going to be fucking locked up in a Costa Rica prison forever.
You got to do is help us, and all this goes away. Otherwise, you better brush up on your prison Spanish, because they don't take too kind of gringo drug dealers down here.
And to add to that, you also have a pretty British woman to throw into the mix. She is working for Ben Affleck's crew, but slowly she ends up forming real feelings for Justin Timberlake. She's played by Gemma Arterton, or Arterton. I forget her name. She was the redhead from Quantum of Solace, and she was also in Kingsman. She's one of the many actors here where it's like, yeah, she's been in a lot of good movies, and this is not one of them.
I'm more of a pizza and beer guy myself.
Baked potato with cheese and baked beans.
So here's the thing, right? With a premise like that, it sounds like it could be a very interesting movie. But unfortunately, the movie skips any and all interesting part of that story, and it feels like it just kind of blows by everything. And that's what I was saying earlier, when it feels like this movie had a bunch of scenes that were just ripped out wholesale so that way they could meet the hour and 30-minute mark. Because it's not a long movie, it goes by really fast. And even though I've complained about movies feeling long in the past, I kind of wish this movie was a little bit longer so they could actually flesh certain things out. But as it stands, it feels like the movie just blows by certain plot points with some forced narration from Timberlake. Like, for example, when he gets to Costa Rica, there are these two guys that know him from the website, and he instantly becomes best friends with them. I forget what the one guy was from. I think he was like a theater actor or something. The other guy, I vaguely remembered him because of his voice, and I'm like, that guy was in something. What the hell was it? And I found out he was like the really obnoxious douchebag kid in that terrible Project X movie, that found footage party film.
Andrew C.
Richie F.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, we want some pussy. Birthday cake. Dax, my dick is gonna get so wet tonight.
Excuse me.
Shit.
There's a point in the movie It's shortly after Timberlake gets roughed up by Anthony Mackie for the first time. And that's when they introduce the whole thing of the FBI being a crucial part of this. And so he's at his apartment with the other two guys, and then one of the two guys, the guy who's not the Project X kid, he is starting to pack his bags, and he's like, look, my brother hooked me up with a job on Wall Street. I'm getting out of this business. I was just roughed up by this FBI guy. And Timberlake just goes, oh, yeah, no, it happened to me too. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Leaving my girl's hotel room this morning when this real hard-ass agent, whatever the fuck his name is, from the FBI, rolls up on me, tells me I'm breaking U.S. fiduciary.
I got braced too. Same guy, same speech. You could tell him to kiss your ass. He can't touch us down here.
And that's just one of the many scenes where it's like, you know, we probably could have seen some of that. We could have seen Anthony Mackie go to this other guy and rough him up a bit. There's a part later on in the movie where Project X guy ends up getting kidnapped and taken as leverage by Ben Affleck's men. And again, in passing dialogue and in narration, they mention, oh yeah, he was taken.
Something's happened to Cronin. He was cooperating with the feds.
The last time we see him in the movie, he's getting the fucking stink eye from one of Ben Affleck's cronies, and then we just never see him again. And then in the last 7 minutes of the movie, Anthony Mackie just mentions in passing, oh yeah, we found your friend. He's a bit roughed up. He was beaten to death, but he's still alive.
We found Cronin beat half to death, but he's alive.
Thank God.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that. I'm really glad we're watching this movie. You know, it's not like one of the key rules of filmmaking is show, don't tell. Yeah, don't show us any of that. Just mention it in dialogue. That's fine too. And that's just kind of how the whole movie plays out. There's any kind of interesting plot beats that happen in this thing, or any kind of direction where it's like, oh yeah, could we see some of that? No, we don't. As for the performances, I don't want to say that anybody was bad in it per se, but it's just the material they were given was really weak. I mean, okay, Justin Timberlake, I was never really impressed with as an actor. I thought the one performance that was genuinely good from him was when he was the Napster guy from The Social Network. I thought he did good there. I mean, the few other movies I can think of with him in it are like Friends with Benefits, In Time, those troll movies that are made for kids, The Love Guru. It's like, it's all really unimpressive stuff. Every time he was on screen, I'm like, that's just Justin Timberlake. I can't look past that. That's not a character. It's just one of those guys from an old boy band from the 90s. Ben Affleck, you think would be having fun with his role because he's playing this like white collar criminal guy. And as the movie goes on, they try to show a more sinister side to him. There's a part very early on when Timberlake starts to get adjusted to attending these lavish parties and he's getting used to the whole racket. And Ben Affleck calls him over to meet him at a footbridge, and he's just throwing chickens into the water and feeding a bunch of crocodiles below. Because, again, in passing mention, he just goes, oh yeah, there was this one guy who wanted me to get into crocodile farming, said it would be good for business, but I've kind of grown attached to these little guys. They're like house pets to me.
Guy wants me to invest in a crocodile farm for their skin. He sent me these as samples. I love those little slimy bastards. They remind me of everybody who wants to take a piece out of me.
So you just know that the crocodiles are going to come back later in the movie, and when they do pay it off, it's not as exciting as it sounds. Just to highlight that Ben Affleck's character can't be trusted, he takes Timberlake out with some of his guys, and there's this gambling commissioner who he shared like one scene with, and they were talking about racehorses and betting and stuff like that. They have that guy and some other dude. He might have been wearing a uniform. He might have been like some cop or something they showed earlier. I don't know. The point is, he takes these two guys, and just to fuck with them, he pushes them into crocodile-infested water for a bet.
We got fucking money on this, dude. Chill.
You scared the shit out of him. Why don't you just pull him back in? The fuck is wrong with you?
And then they get nicked by the crocodiles. They start to get attacked, but then they're pulled out of the water almost instantly.
I got it. Oh, you all right?
I'm not getting out. Get him out.
You can pull him in.
Holy fuck. Come on.
The trailer made it look like, oh yeah, this is when shit starts to get really fucked up. He gets so pissed, he feeds his own men to crocodiles. And so that would be like an exciting part of a crime thriller. But the guys, yeah, they get out with a couple of scratches. It's not to say that isn't traumatic, but it's like, it's not as exciting as it seems. I mean, this movie is rated R, and yet the entire time I was convinced that it was a PG-13. Gemma Arterton, she really doesn't have a whole lot to do in the movie. She's just the attractive woman character of the plot. That's basically it. She starts off more sympathetic to Ben Affleck's character, and then slowly as the movie goes on, her and Timberlake start to form more of a relationship. Kind of. I mean, she just comes and goes when it's convenient for the plot. And even when there are scenes where the two of them are getting to know each other, there's a part where they're just walking along the coast, and they're talking about how, her and Ben Affleck used to be a thing, but then they're just business partners, and it seems like her and Timberlake are starting to like each other. The scene just cuts.
So you two were together.
It wasn't like this.
Yeah, just cut away. Yeah, it's not like I was trying to get emotionally invested with the characters or anything like that. Get more interested in the plot of your movie. No, that's totally fine. Just cut away. And then as the movie goes on, Timberlake starts to realize that shit's starting to get bad. He goes to a couple of guys that are like in cahoots with Ben Affleck, but then they end up getting screwed out of money by Ben Affleck, so they beat the shit out of Timberlake.
Tell your puto gringo boss I'm sending a message.
And then later on in the movie, when Timberlake needs a couple of guys to help him take down Affleck, these guys decide that they'll have his back.
Thank you, Richie, but I'm well taken care of. I think you should stop embarrassing yourself, walk outside, and get in a motherfucking car, man.
You think I'm taken care of too?
Ben Affleck takes Justin Timberlake's dad as leverage at one point near the third act of the movie. He takes his dad and brings him to Costa Rica and says like, oh, if you do anything funny, if you rat me out, if you fuck with me, I could do some horrible shit to your dad, and I can definitely do horrible shit to you. And that's when Timberlake has a decision to make. Does he go with the FBI or does he just comply with Ben Affleck? Out of everybody in the cast, the only one who seemed to actually be having fun with his role was Anthony Mackie. He's playing this FBI guy, and they establish early on that he can't take down Ben Affleck himself because, and they even mentioned this very early on, that like a lot of these other elitist billionaire scumbags, he moved to Costa Rica because it's not on American soil, so that way he can avoid white-collar crime charges in America.
Block has become
lawyers say operate in breach of fiduciary law
outside federal jurisdiction in Costa Rica.
So that's why Anthony Mackie needs Timberlake to help him take him down, because he's close with Ben Affleck, so any kind of dirt that Timberlake could have, they could definitely use in the FBI to take this guy down.
That's the problem, Richie. I keep fucking doing for you. So when are you gonna do for me? When's it gonna be my turn, huh?
But as generic as this character could have been, Anthony Mackie brings a certain level of flair to the character that nobody else in the movie really does. Like, especially Ben Affleck, you think he'd be having fun as this white-collar criminal Tony Montana character, but he's just boring. He just broods most of the time and then says some vaguely threatening shit to Timberlake and just kind of mopes around and then says one or two kind of funny lines. Versus Anthony Mackie, who he's just going fucking full force with his character.
Yeah, I can stand here and say I'm doing it because it's my job. Truth is, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. I love fucking over Princeton guys because I went to Rutgers.
And speaking of which, the only kind of interesting action scene that happens in this film is a part where Anthony Mackie chases after Timberlake. And this is before Timberlake finally decides he's going to join the FBI side and stop working with Ben Affleck and taking his shit. He gets chased by them in a car until eventually they get out of the car and they corner him. And even though I'm not really a fan of shaky cam cinematography or whatever, it was the closest thing to an interesting part of the movie. The movie doesn't look bad. It's not horribly shot. The camera's in focus for most of it. I know that's a low bar, but yeah, it looks like a real movie. It looks way more like a real movie compared to what we talked about last week. You want a crime thriller, especially near the third act of it, to start picking up the pace and being like, oh shit, this is getting tense. We're gonna have characters that might die. But a lot of it's just boring. And then when it gets to this one part where you see like Timberlake running through the streets like it's a fucking Born Ultimatum movie or something, that's when it actually got kind of interesting. And then it immediately stopped, and it's like, oh shit, now we're back to boring. And as for the ending, well, thanks to some helpful narration from Timberlake, apparently Project X guy, before he was kidnapped, made a flash drive with a bunch of the crime and the data fraud and whatever that Ben Affleck was responsible for.
And really got his nose in it. Layers and layers of financial crimes. Block using player accounts as his own piggy bank. Laundering money. And of course, Block's contingency plan.
So you know Timberlake's going to take that thumb drive and he's going to give it to Anthony Mackie. But first, they have to bamboozle, they have to swindle Ben Affleck. So Ben Affleck reveals that he was setting up Timberlake the whole time to be the fall guy while he packed up his shit and set up shops in somewhere else. But what happens is Timberlake bribes the pilot of his jet to take him to Puerto Rico, which U.S. soil. So then Anthony Mackie and the rest of the FBI roll up at the tarmac and they take him away.
What are you gonna do about it? You don't think I own this place too?
Where exactly do you think this is? Bienvenido a Puerto Rico, Ivan. Territory of the United States of America.
Even the last shot of the movie, the last thing we see is just kind of bland for the kind of movie that it is. It's really not exciting for a crime thriller. But the last thing we see is like Timberlake and Gemma Arterton, they get on the jet, and at first the FBI try to chase after them, but then Anthony Mackie is given this little envelope. He opens it up, it's the thumb drive, and he says, "Oh, they're free to go. Let them go." And then they fly the jet, and Timberlake says something about how he never flew in a private jet before.
What did you do? Back to Jersey? Or?
I've never even been on a private plane before today.
Get used to it pretty quickly.
Maybe I already have.
So overall, it's not as bad as Getaway. I know that that's a very low bar, but Getaway is a way worse movie because, I mean, not a single shot in that movie lasted more than a millisecond. This one at least feels edited more like a real movie, but I am also tempted to say Getaway is a more memorable movie because of how bad it was. The terrible editing and wasted performances. Even the bad guy in that movie, with John Voight doing a bad European accent, that was more memorable compared to Affleck's character in this. Everyone just kind of plays the standard characters you'd expect in a movie like this. You got the wide-eyed kid who wants to make it big and soon realizes that greed and corruption is bad. And then you got the evil businessman who has like shady business tactics, and there's the hot femme fatale British woman, and then there's the hardened authority figure with Anthony Mackie. Everyone just kind of plays their characters as blandly as possible, with the only exception being Anthony Mackie, who adds a little bit of charm to the role. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I can't really say that it's one of the worst I've ever seen, because it really wasn't. I was just more bored. And that's the last thing that you should feel in a crime thriller. It's like you want it to be more engaging. This movie came out the same year that two other prominent movies about white-collar crime did. This came out the same year as Wolf of Wall Street, and it came out the same year as Pain and Gain. And Pain and Gain I don't really like. I know a lot of people love that movie, but I'm not really a fan of it because it just kind of has all the typical hallmarks of Michael Bay movies that I hate. That being said, Pain and Gain is still a more memorable movie. The movie promised a bunch of hot chicks, sports cars, and shit blowing up, and because it's a Michael Bay movie, of course you got a bunch of that. So even though I wasn't really a fan of that movie, at least that movie didn't lie like this movie's marketing did. And Wolf of Wall Street, naturally, it's a better movie. It's a way better movie than this. That was an interesting character study. It had drama, it had tensity, it had comedy, it had everything. I mean, it's a Martin Scorsese movie starring Leo DiCaprio, so, you know, even if you're not a fan of either of those guys, you knew it was going to be a better movie.
It's a great thing about America. We go soft on financial crime.